There are over 350 unique real estate markets in the United States. From the Hamptons in the east to Oakland in the west, the US is packed with dense cities, farming communities, ski villages, beach towns, and everything in between. Each individual market behaves in its own unique way and oftentimes operates independently of cities even next to it. This is why when we talk about an upcoming crash or bubble developing on this channel, there are always users in the comments referencing a different reality within their own neighborhood. Real estate at the end of the day is all about location, and there is plenty of variances that can make national averages and trends appear wrong or inaccurate. Sure, the Case-Shiller is down for 6 straight months, but there are plenty of markets where prices are flat or even up. Outside of the Tier 1 cities, away from the coast, tech hubs, and media hype sits the forgotten lands. Cities that have fallen between the cracks, forgotten in the narrative, and overlooked by the data. In today's video, we're going to investigate these unique markets that I argue are the single most important data point to understand when we speak about the future of real estate in America. Now, before we go down that path, we first need to understand a small piece of important history. You see, when experts typically talk about the market, they usually reference the National Case-Shiller Index, which is a measurement that looks at 12 different markets in the US to produce a sort of grand picture of the market. These days, the Case-Shiller has been getting obliterated, with 6 straight months of decline accelerating downwards at a pace we haven't seen in modern data going back to 1987. Starting in July of last year, the tide has begun turning, and month after month we have seen some clear numbers that indicate prices have been falling and will likely continue to fall in the coming reports. If this isn't the start of a market implosion, it's the largest head fake in real estate history. Now, when compared to the outrageous gains we have seen over the last 2 years, this small 4.4% drop is nothing other than a small win for buyers. Prices remain extremely unaffordable when you factor in the recent interest rate hikes and the failure of wages in keeping up with these wild price fluctuations. Of course, if you watch this channel, you already knew this. I talk about the National Case-Shiller in almost every video, but there is something you may not know. You see, in recent history, there has always been a few select markets that act as the canary in the coal mine. These are markets that typically crash earlier and harder than the rest of the country. For example, in Seattle, Washington, prices peaked in May of 2022, which is a few months before the rest of the country. But what really stands out is that currently, as of the latest Case-Shiller report, Seattle prices are down over 15%. This is more than 3 times worse than the current national average and showcases just how far the discrepancy between cities or regional indexes can be. In fact, it may be even worse than this Fed data suggests. If you look on a website like Redfin, which obviously collects sales data in a much more efficient manner than the government, you can see that the single-family median price fell from $1.1 million in March of 2022 to $850,000 as of January. This represents a 25% fall from the peak. This type of fall is considered by most accounts a significant crash. For example, in the 2008 crash, we had a few cities that fell as much as 60%, but overall, the country experienced a decrease in values in the 25% range. This means Seattle is currently approaching or even exceeding those levels that we previously considered extreme. These are numbers that are comparable to the Great Financial Crises, which after all is the worst housing decline since the Great Depression. So with that said, where is the panic? Where are the headlines? Why is there nothing but horror stories for buyers? Well, while buyers in today's real estate market suffer, buyers of another kind will find themselves much happier with their purchase. I'm talking about NordPass, a world-class password manager that allows you to generate and store all your passwords in one safe location. So instead of memorizing all the login information you use for each site, you only have to remember one master password. That means whether you're logging into your Zillow account to check your falling Zestimate, your YouTube account to view the latest mhfin video, or your bank account to pay your mortgage with, the pain of entering passwords manually and remembering them is gone. With dozens of industry-leading features, NordPass does much more than simplify your credential management. It can also help identify weak passwords, allow you to share credentials via an encrypted channel, and can be configured so that your vault is open using your face or fingerprint. With my special offer, you can get 2 years of NordPass with 1 month free for a personal account by going to nordpass.com/mhfin. And for all of you business owners, yes, even flippers and real estate agents, you can get a 3-month free trial of NordPass Business by using the code mhfinbusiness in the form or by heading to nordpass.com/mhfinbusiness. NordPass is what I personally use as my credential manager, and I couldn't be any happier. I was able to flawlessly import my existing passwords from Safari and sync across all my devices in a matter of minutes. Now every website I use can be accessed using NordPass's automatic login feature, and all I have to do is remember one master password. So please remember to check out both links, nordpass.com/mhfinbusiness and nordpass.com/mhfin, linked in the description below. Now back to real estate. As I was just saying, the questions remain. Why has there been no panic considering markets like Seattle have already dropped as much as 25%? Well, the reason this has yet to become a big deal becomes obvious when you look at this map. All of those cities that you see highlighted in blue are refusing to budge from record high prices. So while certain markets like Seattle are crashing hard, there are others that are flat or up. And if we zoom into a few of these unique markets that I alluded to at the start of the video, there is a good possibility that these prices never drop in these specific cities. Now you might be saying to yourself, what a hypocrite. How can he predict a major nationwide crash but at the same time predict no price decline in certain cities? Well, it goes back to what I said earlier. There are always a few markets that differ from the national average, and certain cities can avoid turmoil if they have these immunity characteristics. That may sound impossible or frustrating to hear, but if you look at the data, you'll see what I mean. And I'm in no way suggesting that this reality is what is happening to most markets. I personally think we have a long way to go before we bottom out in most cities. However, with that said, there are a few spots that will be completely immune from the craziness that is going on in the rest of the country. This was true in 2008 and will remain true in 2023. For example, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. While the rest of the country saw massive declines from 2006 to 2012, OKC saw an increase in values. From the summer of 2006 to the winter of 2012, the city's real estate values increased by 4%. This isn't much, but considering the rest of the US was quite literally falling apart during this time, it's nothing short of a miracle. In fact, the OKC market at its worst fell 3% in this small 2-year range right here, refusing to budge despite a meltdown in other cities near it. A perfect example of a market that had crash immunity. So the question today is, where are these markets right now? Well, I'll give you one that I believe to be a clear example. Sitting on the shores of one of the world's largest sources of fresh water is this: Cleveland, Ohio, home to one of the most affordable markets in the entire United States. Now, I know what you're thinking. Of course it's affordable. Who would want to live there? Why are you even making a video about this dump that has nothing to do with the rest of the US? But before you click off, the Cleveland market offers one of the most unique insights in the entire country, a showcase of just how bizarre real estate can get and why some cities are simply not going to follow the indexes or any other major predictors. You see, reading off the Case-Shiller, we can see that starting in 1987, home prices in Cleveland had a steady, uniform rise all the way up until January of 2006. For 19 years, prices grew at a healthy, steady pace, unbothered by various recessions and the fact that Cleveland was a city in a population decline. This rise came to an end in 2006 during the Great Financial Crisis. Just like the rest of the country, the Cleveland market crashed for over 5 years, starting in January of that year and bottoming out in 2012. So why would this city be immune in the next major crash? Well, there are a few reasons, but one significant component that people overlook can be found in this same graph. You see, post-2008, prices in this market never really found their way back to the long-term trend. In fact, someone who bought their home in January of 2006 would have had to wait until the summer of 2019 in order to get the same price they paid. This means values were below the peak for over 13 years. At the end of the day, some neighborhoods in this city never recovered from 2008, and if you draw a trend from those 19 years of steady growth, we are still below the long-term average. And all of this feeds into what I call the forgotten markets. These are metros found outside of these hyped up boom towns and mostly flyover counties where prices remain somewhat affordable when compared to the rest of the nation. For example, Cleveland is one of the few places where you can buy a brand new 2,500 square foot home within 20 minutes of the downtown core for around $260,000. And while it's easy to criticize the city for its lack of everything, let's not forget it's the 31st largest largest metro in the US, home to plenty of prestigious companies that belong in the Fortune 500. Of course, when you're comparing LA, New York, or Chicago to this city, it falls short, but young professionals who are able to find good paying jobs at one of these billion-dollar enterprises have quickly realized that Cleveland is one of the last remaining affordable cities in the nation. It is extremely difficult for a market to collapse when it hasn't even bubbled up, and while locals in the market may disagree, prices in the Cleveland market cannot be compared to almost any other city in the top 50. At the end of the day, a crash requires a bubble, and for a few metros around the country, there simply wasn't enough growth over the last 10 years to create a dangerous cliff to fall from. Cleveland and other forgotten markets fall into this category, and while it's clear that a crash is developing, there are many markets that will remain sheltered or even immune from the large 30, 40, and 50% declines. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment below if you live in one of these markets where prices have barely budged.